It was June 1969 in a Miami film studio, and Muhammad Ali was about to learn the most humbling lesson of his boxing career. The setting was surreal, two legendary heavyweight champions, separated by 14 years and an entire generation, brought together by one of the strangest projects in sports history. What happened in those next 3 seconds would teach Ali that some things never retire, and that respect isn't just earned in victory. Sometimes it's beaten into you by a 46-year-old man who hadn't thrown a punch in anger since 1955. This is the incredible true story of how a single body shot from a long, retired champion left the greatest boxer alive gasping for air on a movie set floor, forever changing how Ali understood power, legacy, and the meaning of true greatness. If you're fascinated by legendary encounters that revealed the humanity behind the myths, subscribe for more untold stories that prove heroes are made in moments when no cameras are supposed to be rolling. The whole bizarre scenario had begun with a computer, specifically an advanced Nuclear's National Cash Register computer that an ambitious film company had programmed to analyze hundreds of hours of boxing footage, statistics, and fighting styles to answer the ultimate question: what would happen if Muhammad Ali fought Rocky Marciano in their respective primes? After processing thousands of data points, punch speed, power, defense, stamina, fighting IQ, and ring generalship, the computer delivered its verdict: Marciano by knockout in the 13th round. The prediction made international headlines. Boxing fans were divided into warring camps. Younger fans who had grown up watching Ali's poetry in motion couldn't imagine anyone beating their beautiful, floating, stinging butterfly. Older fans who remembered Marciano's legendary power and his perfect 49-dollar record nodded knowingly. The computer was probably right. Arguments broke out in gyms, bars, and living rooms across America. It was the greatest hypothetical matchup in boxing history, and now a machine was claiming to have solved it. The film company saw dollar signs. They would create a theatrical release featuring both fighters throwing choreographed punches, which would then be edited according to the computer's round predictions. It was Hollywood meets boxing meets science fiction, and both fighters were offered significant money to participate. Ali, at 27 years old, was at the absolute peak of his powers, undefeated at 29-0 and widely considered the most recognizable human being on the planet. He had destroyed Sonny Liston twice, obliterated Cleveland Williams, and established himself as not just a champion, but a cultural phenomenon who transcended sports entirely. Rocky Marciano, on the other hand, was 46 years old and hadn't stepped into a boxing ring professionally since September 21, 1955, nearly 14 years earlier. He had retired as the only heavyweight champion to never lose a professional fight, but that was ancient history. This was 1969, and Marciano was a middle-aged man who had been out of boxing longer than Ali had been in it. But Uncker's money was good, and both fighters agreed. Ali needed the paycheck, and Marciano, ever frugal despite his wealth, wasn't going to turn down easy money for pretending to fight. The filming was scheduled to take several days. They would shoot different sequences: early rounds with light sparring, middle rounds with more action, and final rounds building to the dramatic knockout the computer had predicted. Everything was choreographed, nothing was real. It was Hollywood, not boxing. From day one, Ali couldn't resist his favorite target, making fun of older opponents. But this time, he was teasing a legend. "Rocky, you move like my grandfather." Ali would joke between takes. "How's that arthritis treating you today, champ? You need help getting up from that stool." Marciano took the ribbing with good humor. He had always liked Ali, admired his skill, and respected his courage in standing up for his beliefs during the Vietnam controversy. "Keep talking, kid," he would reply with a smile. This old man might surprise you. The banter was constant and playful, but it was building towards something neither man expected. On the third day of filming, during a lunch break, Ali was holding court with the crew, regaling them with stories of his greatest victories, while Marciano sat nearby, quietly eating a sandwich and listening to the young champion's familiar routine. "I am the greatest heavyweight who ever lived," Ali proclaimed, his voice filling the sound stage. "I'm faster than lightning, stronger than a locomotive, and prettier than a picture. Ain't no man alive can beat Muhammad Ali, and ain't no man who ever lived could beat Muhammad Ali." When Ali finished his impromptu speech, Marciano spoke up calmly. "Ali, you're right about one thing. You are fast. Fastest heavyweight I've ever seen. Maybe the fastest there'll ever be." Ali grinned, taking it as complete validation. "See? Even The Rock knows the truth." But Marciano continued, his tone becoming more serious. Speed isn't everything though, and power, real power, it doesn't leave you. Your legs go, your wind goes, your reflexes slow down. But the power in your punch, that's the last thing to leave a fighter. Sometimes it never leaves at all. Ali laughed, dismissing the statement with a wave of his hand. Rocky, come on, you're 46 years old. You haven't hit anybody for real in over a decade. Your power retired when you did. Marciano put down his sandwich and stood up slowly. Even at 46, he was still built like a tank. His arms looked like they could bend steel bars, and his shoulders carried the muscled memory of a man who had knocked out 43 of his 49 professional opponents. You really believe that? Marciano asked quietly. I know it, Ali said with absolute confidence. You're old champ, it's okay, it happens to everybody, even you. The lunch crew had gone quiet. There was tension in the air now, and even though both men were smiling, the director sensed something cinematically valuable was happening and signaled the cameraman to keep rolling. Tell you what, Marciano said, rolling his shoulders in a movement that somehow looked both casual and threatening. You're so sure I've lost it. Let me show you something. Just so you know what real power feels like. Ali's eyes lit up with the familiar fire of a man who had never backed down from any challenge. You want to throw a real punch right here on the movie set? If you're willing to take one, Marciano replied. Just one body shot so we don't mess up that pretty face of yours for the cameras. I'll go maybe half power, just to show you that some things don't retire. Ali was already setting his feet, tightening his core muscles, preparing his body to absorb whatever this middle-aged former champion could deliver. Old man, I've taken body shots from Sonny Liston, from George Chuvalo, from Cleveland Williams. You think your 46-year-old half-power punch is going to hurt me? Go ahead, hit me. Marciano looked at him seriously, his expression shifting from casual conversation to something more focused. Ali, I'm not joking around here. Even at half-power, even at my age, this is going to hurt. You sure you want this? Stop stalling, Rocky. You're making excuses now. Ali spread his arms wide, making himself an open target. Hit me. The crew formed a circle around them. Everyone could feel this was a moment. Unscripted, unrehearsed, and potentially legendary. The cameraman was definitely rolling now, knowing he was about to capture something that would be talked about for decades. Marciano took off his light jacket and rolled his shoulders a few times. Even that simple movement looked powerful, loaded with the coiled strength that had made him one of the most feared punchers in heavyweight history. Where do you want it? He asked. Ali tapped his solar plexus, the soft spot just below the sternum. Right here. Your best shot, I won't even move. Marciano nodded solemnly. Okay. But don't say I didn't warn you. What happened next took approximately 3 seconds, but everyone who witnessed it would remember those moments in slow motion for the rest of their lives. Marciano didn't wind up like a cartoon character. He didn't telegraph his intentions with obvious body language. He didn't show any of the dramatic signs that a devastating punch was coming. Instead, he simply shifted his weight, a small, subtle movement that started in his legs, transferred through his hips, and exploded through his shoulders. His right fist traveled maybe 12 inches. It wasn't a wild haymaker thrown for the cameras. It wasn't a Hollywood punch designed for dramatic effect. It was a short, compact, perfectly placed body shot that landed exactly where Ali had indicated, right in the solar plexus. The sound was unlike anything anyone present had ever heard. Like a mallet hitting a side of beef, a deep, hollow thump that made everyone in the room wince involuntarily. Ali's eyes went wide immediately. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. His hands instinctively went to his stomach, and then his knees buckled completely. He dropped to the floor of the sound stage, rolling onto his side and curling into a fetal position, his face contorting in panic as he tried desperately to draw breath that simply wouldn't come. His diaphragm had gone into complete spasm. The muscle that controls breathing had locked up entirely, refusing to function. No air could go in, no air could go out. His lungs were screaming for oxygen, but his body had betrayed him completely. Panic set in immediately. Ali's mind raced with terrifying thoughts. He was suffocating. He was dying. This 46-year-old man had killed him with one punch on a movie set, and there was nothing he could do about it. His hands clawed at his throat as if trying to manually open his airway. His face turned red, then purple, as his oxygen-starved blood struggled to circulate. The greatest athlete in the world was helpless, reduced to a gasping, desperate man fighting for his next breath. Marciano knelt down beside him, completely calm despite what he had just done. "Breathe, Ali. Just relax. Your diaphragm's in spasm. It'll pass. I've done this to 100 guys over the years. It always passes." But Ali couldn't relax. How could he relax when he couldn't breathe? He was on his knees now, rocking back and forth, desperately trying to force air into lungs that wouldn't cooperate. 10 seconds passed. 15 seconds. 20 seconds of pure oxygen panic. The crew was starting to panic too, wondering if they should call an ambulance, if they were witnessing a medical emergency, if the legendary Muhammad Ali was going to die on their watch. Marciano put his hand on Ali's back, his voice steady and reassuring. "Easy, kid. Easy. It's coming back. Just stay calm." At about the 30-second mark, though it felt like hours to Ali, his diaphragm finally released. He sucked in a huge, ragged breath that sounded like a drowning man breaking the surface of water. Then another breath, then another, each one a small victory against the panic that had consumed him. He stayed on his knees for another full minute, breathing heavily, sweat pouring down his face even though he hadn't been exerting himself. When he finally looked up at Marciano, there was no more joking in his eyes, no more casual disrespect. What remained was pure, genuine respect mixed with a healthy dose of fear. That was half power. Ali managed to gasp out, his voice hoarse and shaky. Marciano nodded seriously. "Maybe less than half. I pulled it pretty good. Full power would have cracked ribs." Ali started laughing then, a breathless, almost hysterical laugh that mixed relief with amazement.
Oh my God, Rocky."
"The computer was right. You would have killed me." "No," Marciano said, helping Ali to his feet with surprising gentleness. "Prime you versus prime me. I think you'd win. Your speed, your movement, your boxing brain. It's too much. You'd dance around me for 12 rounds and win on points." He paused, looking directly into Ali's eyes. But the computer wasn't completely wrong either. "If I caught you, really caught you, just once, it would have been over." Ali was still catching his breath, still rubbing his solar plexus where the punch had landed. "I've never felt anything like that in my life. And you're 46 years old. You haven't boxed professionally in 14 years. How is that possible?" Marciano smiled slightly, the expression of a man who had just proven an important point. "I told you, kid. Power is the last thing to leave a fighter. Everything else goes first, the legs, the wind, the reflexes. But the punch, that stays forever." The crew was buzzing with excitement. The cameraman was grinning from ear to ear, knowing he had just captured something incredible that would become legendary behind the scenes footage. The director was already thinking about how to use this material, understanding that he had witnessed pure gold. For the rest of the filming, Ali's entire attitude toward Marciano changed completely. The age jokes stopped. The casual disrespect disappeared. When they filmed the choreographed fight sequences, Ali watched Marciano's technique with new eyes, studying the way the older man generated devastating power from such short distances, how he used his entire body like a coiled spring. "Rocky," Ali said one day near the end of filming, "teach me that. Teach me how you punch like that." Marciano spent hours with Ali, showing him the mechanics of what became known as the Marciano punch. The way he used his relatively short arms to generate devastating power through perfect weight transfer and timing. Ali absorbed every lesson like a student, not like the brash champion who thought he knew everything. When the filming wrapped, they went to dinner together. Two champions from different eras who had found mutual respect through 3 seconds of brutal honesty. "Rocky, I'm going to tell that story for the rest of my life," Ali said over dinner. "The day a 46-year-old man who hadn't fought in 14 years put me on my knees with one punch." Marciano laughed. "Just don't tell people I was taking it easy on you." "Are you kidding?" Ali replied. "That's the best part. The fact that you were taking it easy makes it even more incredible." They stayed in touch after that encounter. Marciano would call Ali before big fights, offering advice and encouragement. There was a mutual respect now that went deeper than fighter to fighter. It was student to teacher, present to past. On August 31st, 1969, just 2 months after that body shot on the film set, Rocky Marciano died in a plane crash in Iowa, the day before his 46th birthday. He was traveling to a speaking engagement when his small Cessna went down in a cornfield during bad weather. He died instantly on impact. When Ali heard the news, he was in training camp preparing for his next fight. Someone from his team came in and told him what had happened. Ali stopped hitting the heavy bag mid-punch, stood completely still for a moment, then broke down crying. Angelo Dundee, his trainer, had never seen Ali cry like that, deep, body, shaking sobs that seemed to come from somewhere profound. "He just taught me something," Ali kept saying through his tears. "He just taught me something important 2 months ago, and now he's gone." In his public statement about Marciano's death, Ali said, "Rocky Marciano was the toughest man I ever met, not just in the ring but in life. He taught me that power never retires, that respect is earned, and that being undefeated means more than never losing. It means never giving up what makes you great. He was my friend and my teacher, and the world lost a champion." At Marciano's funeral, Ali was one of the pallbearers. He stood in the rain, holding one corner of the casket, tears mixing with rainwater on his face. Someone later asked him why Marciano's death hit him so hard when they had only really known each other for a few months. Ali's answer was simple: "Because he taught me more in 3 seconds than most men teach in a lifetime, and I never got to thank him properly." Years later, whenever Ali told the story of that body shot, and he told it hundreds of times throughout his life, he would always end it the same way: "Rocky Marciano was 46 years old, hadn't fought in 14 years, and he hit me with half power. It was the hardest punch I ever took. That's not a man, that's a legend, and legends don't retire." The computer fight film was eventually released in theaters in 1970, with Marciano winning by knockout in the 13th round, exactly as predicted. But everyone who knew the scenes story understood the truth. Rocky Marciano had already proven his point on that Miami soundstage, with one punch that lasted 3 seconds but taught a lesson that would endure forever. Sometimes the greatest education comes not from victory, but from those moments when we're humbled by forces we didn't expect and couldn't prepare for. Muhammad Ali learned that day that respect isn't something you give grudgingly to the past. It's something you earn by recognizing greatness wherever you find it, even in a 46-year-old man who hadn't thrown a punch in anger for 14 years. The 3 seconds that left Ali unable to breathe became the foundation for a friendship, an education in humility, and a reminder that true power transcends time, age, and circumstance. In the end, both men were champions, but only one of them was wise enough to keep learning, even when the lesson hurt.